In this installment of Unpacked.
And he says, you're 11 years old.
Wow.
But I'm 25. Going into high school was just a lot of bullying, a lot of insensitivity. I didn't know I was different, apart from the world telling me I was different.
Sometimes a person ends up just staring at you.
They do.
Today's guest is known famously for his acting work on television, on stages, and in film. But there is another part to his story. Let's unpack. Themba Ntuli, one of South Africa's popular actors, has enjoyed an illustrious film and television career, but there's more to his story than meets the eye. Themba never allowed his physical stature to deter him from fulfilling his dreams and living his life to the fullest. The star has been in the entertainment industry for more than a decade, gracing our screens in popular TV shows and movies. He joins us to talk about his testing journey to stardom, finding the love of his life, and overcoming his insecurities. This is part one of his story. Let's unpack. Themba, welcome to Unpacked.
Hello.
I'm so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, I'm so delighted. I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's been a while since I've done something like this.
Ne?
But no, it's a good thing, you know, to just go out there and just...
So we actually worked together before. We were speaking off air about how we haven't seen each other since the days at our soapy where we were.
My man, you know, like, I think it goes back about 10 years ago.
Yeah, more than 10 years.
Sure, and you're still beautiful as ever.
Thank you.
Then, it's not brownie points, but I'm just saying...
Doesn't mean I'm going to go light on you in the conversation.
Listen, that's okay.
So, I mean, when a person meets you immediately, they might get confused about how old you are. They might get confused about a couple of things. So from your perspective, I mean, I've read an article that spoke about the fact that a doctor noticed quite recently that you had a deficiency of a growth hormone. Explain it to me.
What's I'm joking.
And
So I just love cracking jokes at myself. But you know, I think it's always such an interesting thing that when I get to meet a lot of different people. Although because of my time in television, a lot of them have gotten to kind of know but they can't really tell exactly how old is this guy. And so the whole doctor interview actually happened when I was around 24, 25. You know, in black communities, there ain't no specialists. GP fella, like GP, you try everything. I'm short, please. You know, there's no official diagnosis no, dude. Actually, this is the condition. So it's something that that got found out so late in my life when I'd done so much work internally that it didn't matter externally, you know, because what the job of an endocrinologist, right? As an endocrinologist, what they do is they would look at children and their growth spurt, and then they would say, okay, is this child going to be a stunted child, or are they? But also what causes growth. Stunting is sometimes lack of food, like certain food stuffs, and like shooting and then so I did everything in my parents' best ability, and what they knew, okay, man from 4 or 5 years. Not cool, but Marukrend, your mona now is a bad.
No, because all that matters is you're healthy.
Listen, you know what I mean? So by the time, very shortly, when the doctor diagnosed me, looked at my ring finger, looked at the bone pellets in between your fingers, and then, but he was interested simply because, Hakiara, I was about to do a film. So we have to do general checkups. I get there, I'm like, no, greater checkup is like, Mr. Ntuli, yes. Are you 25? Yeah, but I ain't born now.
Yes.
And he's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know what? Okay, after we've done this check, can I take you to like an endocrinologist? I'm like, what's that? It's like, no, kemoto checking like your growth spurt, whether you're growing and it's always better to catch it on time. Like when you're younger, like
Yes.
I would say around your 10, your 7s, like
Yes.
how you go primary when you can
Yes.
still do something about it. But also those injections don't come cheap.
Yes.
You know. So went there, the guy took the scan of my left hand.
And this was just his own curiosity saying, can we actually check this out?
Yeah. And at no cost, because I was like, listen, I ain't about to pay for something I didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, can I just? I was like, okay, sharp.
Yeah.
Checks me out, quickly comes in and he says, okay, your bones, I'm a tambo at una.
I can't deal.
No, but it's these bones. I'm sorry. It's just who I am.
Yes.
And he says, you're 11 years old.
Wow.
But I'm 25.
Yes.
Right? And he says, but we can give
And
you
that's what the
injection.
bones
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
So what they would do for children is they would track their growth spurt, kamasapo like in between your finger pallets, and then they would be able to tell Hore, actually, your bones are saying you're within this age group or category. By the time I'm 25, and I'm thinking to myself, yo, okay, what do we do to change it? I was excited because it's something I've been praying about, something that I wanted to see for a while. But a doctor and he was like, nah, like an injection. And we don't know how many times you would have to
And what are the
inject.
injections? Is it hormones? Is it steroids? What is it?
It's so as far as he said, after that diagnosis, I didn't go deeper into it. I was just like, okay, it's good info, sharp. But he said at the time that it's going to be growth hormone. So it's the stuff that guys like Lionel Messi took.
Yes.
You know, the soccer player, where I don't know what he plays for now, but yeah. So he took the growth hormone injection, and what they do is they inject it into your marrow, all right? And then that will sort of aid in your growing. But you need to take a lot of it depending on how far they want you to get.
But now, can I just go a step back?
Yeah.
I get it, this only happened recently. If in that entire time, because there's no access to specialists or anything, what were the doctors telling, your parents? Because after a while, they notice, the other kids that are your age are at this stage developmentally.
Sure.
Are we worried, or it's just he's healthy, he's doing what he needs to do, he's starting school? What were the doctors saying?
As I said, I don't think it was a lack of specialists, it was a lack of knowledge or understanding, rather, Uguti. There are certain, but then again, you consider or you think to yourself, what would the cost be even to take our child there if you had known? So it's one thing to find out who the specialist is, but when you go there, is it a medical aid thing? Is it a cash thing, But the doctor kept on saying, your child is healthy and fine. Uzo cool, because even to them, I don't think the GP was really concerned about whether I was growing or not. To him, it was, but the child seems healthy and alive. And so I don't see a physical problem. But then without the knowledge, you can't really know, Uguti, we are cool or are cool. I mean, let's say you take a 2-year-old child. You wouldn't specifically tell if this kid will be tall or short because it's a genetic thing. Because I'm the only one that's like this height at home.
Yes.
So and I'm the firstborn and foot. So I think
so they
also,
can't even say for sure, was this inherited?
There was someone before me to say, Amaralea mute, wailo. No, it's not like that. But I think my parents also took it with so much love and care. And to them, they saw a bit of the confident side of me that eventually they're like, no, Maron Duano Kren. I guess he's our special little miracle child. And I was premature, so.
And this conversation will excite me because I just had a baby.
Hey, come on. Hey, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I mean, these are things that during the pregnancy, my pregnancy had a lot of challenges. Where you're constantly checking, is baby going to be okay? And realistically, you're not going to be able to see everything, irrelevant of how far advanced medicine is. So I feel for your parents. You only know what you know at the time, even the medical people that they're dealing with at that time.
So true.
So how many months were you premature?
Well, look, it's a bit vague. I mean, to them, when my mom said she was counting, it was between the 5 and 7 month range. But I think it would fall more to the 5.
Yes.
Although I still was healthy. I was very tiny.
Yes.
But I didn't have any complications as far as I could tell. But I did come way earlier than ever anticipated. So it was a bit of a vibe at that time. But I think for my parents, obviously them having their firstborn child, it was the blessing of the child and the fact that the child is alive.
Yeah.
Now the next steps only happened when I hit around 4. That's when they started looking. Again, here's a special story that I want to quickly share is that I think also more so much for me rather than them, I didn't know I was different or I looked different apart from the world telling me I was different. So it was only in primary, like, hakikana primary school, because I crashed. Like,
Yes.
everyone is just tiny humans. Until you get to primary and people are like, shorty bojela, shorty, or whatever, or tigoloshi, or whatever the case is that kids would.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mara guys, Nyang heard. Like, what's going on?
Back out heard of
But I heard, banaba crash abana di prege pa. Yo, they would, why when you ngani so shorty? And it was just from there. That's when I also came back and I'm like, yo, parents, I'm different. And they're like, yeah, umfisha maru right. You know, and that's when I think they took it upon themselves to show me all the love that they could give, you know, give me everything and help
And I
me
have
understand.
to say, I kind of feel like that might have helped you, that your parents, because the moment somebody comes with a label that implies different or not normal, you might now face the world with that lens.
Yeah.
And then other people don't have the opportunity to just meet Themba.
Sure.
It's only the few people who are going to say, how bad?
Yeah.
How bad?
Yeah.
So now it reaches a point where, because it wasn't just about height, it was also just about general development. So when did you reach the point where you're like, yeah, but I'm not just short?
I think for me, as I say, I think primary school and then going into high school was just a lot of bullying, a lot of insensitivity, trying to figure yourself out. I mean, it's one thing to try and understand your emotions, puberty, you know, your mindset, family, friends, add height to it or a condition, if I may call it. It's another ball game all on its own, you know. But
Which you haven't even figured out yourself.
listen, I mean, what else can I do? You know, as I said, I only recently, in so many years, found out Ugoti. Actually, scientifically, it's termed growth hormone deficiency. So it's not that I don't have hormones, but they're insufficient. You know, so we need to add on to that so that you could hit a proper growth spurt. But that never happened. So what do you do in order to find that? You know, you introspect, you pray. And for me, that was the saving grace. Accompanied by the love of my parents, my brothers, Themba Ntuli, and they never made me feel any different. When I was at home, I was safe. When I was outside, that's when it was like, but I had to be alone in order for me to develop that muscle, you know? And that's why I'm this bubbly, because like, it's my weapon. I'm joking.
I love it. So Themba, you say then, you know, obviously you had this amazing home base, but somewhere in your upbringing, people started to tell you X, Y, and Z. The problem is you don't know what to do about it. So how did you handle that? Because there are people who have their own challenges they're facing in life, maybe not the same as yours, and they might be able to take away from what you did to, you know, push on.
Look, I can tell you that being a human, number one, is just a job on its own. Uphila nje. Ayisibani nje. Noma ngabe uthi wenzani, and then, you know, there's just the surprise of life's challenges and life's circumstances. And honestly, I don't say that there's one way or one formula to actually finding a better way of dealing, firstly with your inner person, and then working on the outward. Because sometimes you find people that have issues like they were fine and proper and look, they were models, and then they got burnt, or, you know, and there are just issues. And how do you move forward from that? Whereas for me, it was from birth. And now you're up to this age. And I could honestly say that for me personally, it was finding a wonderful relationship with Christ, you know. For me, and this is not in any patronizing or condescending way, or, you know, but to say that what worked for me, honestly, was being able to deal with the fact that this is the card that I'm dealt with. Not Uguti, it's done out of spite, but we're all different human beings. Some are big, some are small, some are short and tall, and whatever your situation is. But it can never outweigh the purpose that God has put into you to come into this life. So for me, it had to take something extra special because the love from my parents was there. The love from my siblings was there. I had made friends and there were no issues with my friends, but I was still different and I was still hitting late puberty. I was still crying. I was still being bullied. I was still faced with the honest and the honest part of me saying, Ntwana, maybe angeke usakhula. How do you deal with that? I mean, I got to
As
a
in,
point,
maybe this is it.
of course it is.
Yeah.
No, I've taken everything that I could, supplements, growing this, that. Mara kusasenjalo. So what do you do when kusasenjalo? When you've made peace in your mind, and I always share this joke because it's my joke and I love it. I always say, "Ikasket yami mfethu angeke ntwana." Like 6 foot compared to it doesn't need like 6 men.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just 2 guys, on the shoulder. Siyombeka, final resting place. Ibile lempata rako, the kids section. I mean,
Oh my God. You see, it's so great that you've reached the point that you can
have
joke
to.
about it
You
because
have to.
I think that means you've crossed over to a certain
Yes.
point. And the purpose of us even having this conversation is, firstly, people don't have information.
Yeah.
Not just as in to satisfy curiosity,
Yes.
but there are some people who might or are facing what your parents faced, what you are facing, and maybe there's a way that they can be inspired or assisted.
Sure.
The second thing is we often tiptoe around each other. And I don't know if you found where somebody wants to ask, but they'd rather just stay. So now, or quiet, whereas it's a good place to say, actually, if you do bump into me because I happen to be a public figure and you have questions, this is the right way to speak about it, this is the wrong way to speak about it. So what are some of the terms that you don't want to be referred to as? And you've mentioned calling it a condition, even though now we know it's a growth hormone deficiency.
Yeah,
What are those no-go areas so that we know, and the areas that you're like, I'm actually comfortable with this?
Yeah. I think there's no better term than to call someone by who they are and not what the condition, as I always say, because it's not about the condition. And I mean, as I honestly reflect back, thinking to the times and the moments where I didn't have the answers. And even to this day, all I say when someone asks Uguti, why are you korti kangaka? I'm like, my brother, just speak to Jesus. Ask him on my behalf. Uguti echo. Kambeni, because listen,
I don't know.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
But honestly, that to me, not only have I kind of turned it into something that I bring humor out of, but it's something that I live with and that it's real. I found love through it. But the first and most conscious love was my love for God and my love for faith. And that saving grace for me through Christ was the fact that I'm able to say, Lebu, look, there's no term to say you are disabled or when umfishane or uhamba nge-wheelchair. I can't call you it. Embeto wheelchair. Cortez. No, that's not who you are. It's only in platforms like this. It's only in encounters. Tina Futsi West. In television, people think they own you, number one.
Yeah.
You get
and
out
they feel
there.
entitled to say anything, to touch you.
Dude, and they feel that they have the right to also question you.
Because they pay their TV license.
So, we're in the same boat. But people feel this entitlement, Uguti. Because I see you on television, I have the right to know about you. I have the right to, just make mention, maybe, Uguti. And why umfishane or some people have gone to that extent.
That they want to carry you.
Why? And I'm like, but that's, and for me, that honestly, is a no-go.
Yeah.
So you were asking me earlier, what are the things that someone is not supposed to maybe do or say?
Yeah.
Don't pick me up. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And also when I get to, let's say, a shop or something like that, and you ask me, "Mfethu manje, wangifishane kangaka and you're serving me, serve me first.
Can I put in my drinks order?
Like, can I just do what I'm here for and then let's talk?" Because omunye umuntu, they find that, and sometimes, honestly, I'll speak on their behalf now. Honestly, it is an uncomfortable territory to come into because you're not sure. You want to know, you're curious, but at the same time, you're like, should I ask? Should I not? Should I?
Hence I was saying, sometimes a person ends up just staring at you.
They do.
Like just.
They do. You know, and my question is, I always come back, "Hola, Ukraine, come back." I know that Ukraine. And then someone just walks away. But we must also understand that people are trying to figure themselves out as well. And I think the one thing that is that when they discover, especially being in the entertainment industry, when they see you portraying different characters, your level of confidence compared to their issues and what they're going through, they're thinking, if I get to speak to this person, maybe I might get to understand how do they deal with such things. Just like that's why we are on the show. And that's why I say I pick and choose what I talk about. I pick and choose where I go because I feel like not everyone deserves to know who or what I do unless you have an encounter with me. Otherwise, you just know Themba Ntuli TV. But in such platforms, you know, we're able to, I love it, here's a coin, unpack. Or like, you know, some of those moments and those real, honest issues about disability. Can I quickly say, I've never considered myself disabled.
And you don't consider yourself living with a disability?
Not at all, ever. Why? Because I've always been able. It's only maybe mang funny class, if I need a glass or something, I would step on a ladder. But to me, because I was living in it, it was natural. So it never felt like, such a job, I need to get a chair. No, I just don't wanna make it happen, you know? So I never considered that term as well. Uguti, I am disabled or differently abled or living with a disability because ain't none disabled in me, brother. Everything works.
Yes. There are TV shows that happen, you know, overseas and they will have the terminology little people.
Yes.
Is that term offensive to you? And tell me why, if so.
It is. I would say, Mina, it is offensive because why little? I always say, why do you have, we can see they're little. Why add a title to it?
Why reference the size?
Yeah, why reference the size? Because when you say little people, they are first people before they are little. No one wakes up and as vandaag, I want to be little.
Yes.
You know, you don't wake up and do that, but it is what it is. So I find that when you give people titles, you degrade them to a sense. You make them feel like valiant.
And there's something about our communities. Rona batho ba bantsho. If you're trying to say, kana wa mogopola Relebogile o feng o le wa marago man o le mokima like we don't know how to
describe.
Yes, we always have to describe in the most horrible way possible. Okay, I got you. What kind of discriminations have you faced in our industry? Because on the one hand, you've mentioned the positives, which is that people know who you are, so they're not going to assume you're an 11-year-old kid or a 7-year-old kid. What are the negatives that have happened to you in this industry?
Simple, briefly, typecast, stereotype, and not having enough people to write certain roles for you because of either seeing your limitation as something that they can't work beyond. In this life, I am a short 30-year-old. Can there not be a character that has a wife and kids and does life as a cop that is my height? Simply because you're coming back and saying, no, when we're casting, we're looking for a 30-year-old, you know, as a smart cop, dressed clean, but they'll never cast me because of the way that I look. Now, how am I supposed to change that? And the only thing that's available, all right, so we're looking for a 12-year-old kid, you know, come in, do this audition. How often do you get those? And also, I'm 30. I cannot
Keep doing 12-year-old
thinking
content.
like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But what does that teach me? It's don't rely on what other. It's like what you've done so beautifully with the work that we're sitting in right now. We're content creators, and that's what it teaches you. It teaches you to say that if you honestly want to see some change, be that change. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the one that applies yourself. As I am currently working on developing a film called Teacher Wanted. Do you know what I mean? And there, it's a space, even though we haven't fully discussed how we can enclose it as yet, but it's a space where I can honestly play my age and be like, guys, people like me do exist. You know what I mean?
And you do, because you're here. And there was a time that we were acting together in a certain soapy. You were in late high school at the time.
Yes.
I was playing a school character and I was in my early 20s. And then you were in matric, but your character was a child. And then there became issues of what's going to happen to your character. What did that experience teach you? I mean, other than the fact that you were, it was not a fair situation.
Yeah, honestly, I think I've worked through it right now, but I was hurt by
Can we explain to the viewers what exactly happened?
Okay, so I mean, without pointing fingers and whatever, it was what broke me into the industry. It was a wonderful job, and as a kid coming in, with the excitement and the thought that I'm coming in to do something amazing, and I'd started, and it had a following, and people fell in love with this character. Now, this said character disappeared for a while. And we thought that they would come back, but it was told to me that the character, they didn't die away, they just left. But now, in having to return, it wasn't written back simply because I was short. So now what do you do with information like that as a young, odd 16, 18-year-old?
As in, the issue is, you are not developing or growing in real life,
to continue.
To continue
The
on
character,
screen.
yes.
So the character is growing with you.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I mean, from casting, already you can see that, okay, sharp, Ntwana is this age, but he's this height. So I would think it would have been better to think ahead. Either you kill them off or we find a way to write them in.
Or to write what your reality is.
Exactly.
Like, they literally could have gone through the process of
finding out.
Yes.
What's happening? Can we try and explain this?
Yeah.
Can maybe that character who was my father in the story come back, or my adopted father come back and be like, Mbana, are you sure you're my kid?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Because it was a missed opportunity.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it really, honestly, let me just put this quite bluntly, Wuti. It really put me in a position of thinking, Wuti, this is my career. It's just being typecast, stereotyped, and being told that unless I don't play a kid, whether in a commercial or television, or some of the best work that I've done has come from international roles where it's not about gender, it's not about age. Some of them have been so cool that I remember playing in an international TV series called The Vagrant Queen. And there I had like this dog costume and I was carrying a gun. And it's imagination. It's all in how you portray it, because acting is about portraying something that isn't there in the real. But if you are going to use someone like me, in the physical, then you must understand that it will come with certain limitations. But I also think that it should be explored what you can do as a performer and what you're willing maybe to do also.
Next time on Unpacked. So you found love.
Oh, yes. I did.
How did you guys meet?
Listen, she stalked me.
So a lot of people have always seen mother and son.
Everyone deserves a chance at love, but not everyone will find love.
Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcasts weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up to S3.